Hi, fellow tankers. It's been a while when I upload a new video for armored warfare. So in today's video, we will look at the Soviet T-54 tank, and let's begin with a little history lesson. The T-54 tanks are a series of Soviet main battle tanks introduced just as the Second World War ended. The first T-54 prototype appeared in March 1945 and entered full production in 1947. It became the main tank for armored units of the Soviet Army, armies of the Warsaw Pact countries, and many others. T-54s were involved in many of the world's armed conflicts during the late 20th century. During the Cold War, Soviet tanks never directly faced their NATO adversaries in Europe. However, the T-54's first appearance in the West in the 1950s spurred the United Kingdom to develop a new tank gun, the Royal Ordnance L7, and the United States to develop the M60 pattern. Predecessors, T-34 and T-44. The Soviet T-34 medium tank of the 1940s is considered to have the best balance of firepower, protection, and mobility for its cost of any tank of its time in the world. Its development never stopped throughout the Second World War, and it continued to perform well. However, the designers could not incorporate the latest technologies or major developments as vital tank production could not be interrupted during wartime. In 1943, the Morozov Design Bureau resurrected the pre-war development project and created the T-44 tank. Thanks to a space-efficient torsion bar suspension, a novel transverse engine mount, and the removal of the hull machine gunner's crew position, the T-44 had the cross-country performance at least as good as the T-34, but with substantially superior armor and a much more powerful 85mm gun. By the time the T-44 was ready for production, the T-34 had also been modified to fit the same gun. Although the T-44 was superior in most other ways, by this time T-34 production was in full swing and the massive numbers of T-34s being built offset any advantage to smaller numbers of a superior design. The T-44 was produced in only small numbers, around 2,000 being completed during the war. Instead, the designers continued to use the design as a basis for further improved guns, experimenting with a 122mm design, but later deciding a 100mm gun was a better alternative. Prototypes. Efforts to fit the 100mm gun to the T-44 demonstrated that small changes to the design would greatly improve the combination. The main issue was a larger turret ring, which suggested slightly enlarging the hull. A prototype of the new design, about 40 centimeters, 16 inches, longer and only 10 centimeters wider, was completed in 1945. This model looked almost identical to the original T-44, albeit with a much larger gun. In testing, there were numerous drawbacks that required correction and many alterations that had to be made to the vehicle's design. It was decided to begin serial production of the new vehicle and the vehicle officially entered service on the 29th of April 1946. It would go into production in Nizhny Tagil in 1947 and Kharkov in 1948. Production of the initial series of T-54s began slowly as 1,490 modifications were made. The Red Army received a tank that was superior to World War II designs and theoretically better than the newest tanks of potential opponents. The serial production version differed from the second T-54 prototype. It had thicker hull armor, 80mm on the sides, 30mm on the roof and 20mm on the bottom. As production ramped up, quality problems emerged, production was stopped, and an improved version was designed. Several changes were made, and a new turret was fitted. The new dome-shaped turret with flat sides was inspired by the turret from the IS-3 heavy tank. It is similar to the later T-54 turret, but with a distinctive overhang at the rear. It also had a shorter bristle. The fender machine guns were removed in favor of a single bow-mounted machine gun. The transmission was modernized, and the track was widened to 580mm. This modernization entered production in 1949 at Stalin Ural Tank Factory No. 183, Uralvagonzavod. In 1951, a second modernization was made, which had a new turret with outside undercuts, as well as the new telescopic gunner's sight. The tank featured the TDA smoke generating system. In the beginning of the 1950s, decisions were made to equip the 100mm D-10T tank gun with a vertical stabilizer. The new tank gun received the designation D-10TG and was fitted into the T-54's turret. The new tank received night vision equipment for the driver. Originally, this had a small muzzle counterweight, which was later replaced with a fume extractor. It was equipped with the wading snorkel, telescopic sight, infrared driver's periscope and eye headlight, a new radio, multi-stage engine air filter and radiator controls for improved engine performance, an electrical oil pump, a bilge pump, an automatic fire extinguisher and extra fuel tanks. The tank officially entered production in 1954 and service in 1955. A new version was designed in 1955. It was fitted with a new 100mm D10T2S tank gun with 2-plane stabilizer. It entered production in 1957. During the last 4 months of production, the new tanks were equipped with an infrared searchlight, new gunner sight, and commander searchlight. Modern APF-SDS ammunition was developed, dramatically enhancing the penetrative performance of the gun to keep it competitive with NATO armor developments. That's all for today, and see you in the next one. Meanwhile, enjoy the rest of the video.
Protect the plane. We've access to hardline remotely. Need time to download the intel. Intel's been downloaded. Thanks, Black Company. You have no idea how important it is to stop the Alliance.